thank you for joining us on the Person to Person Network. Welcome to Profiles in STEM. Our career series will feature an amazing STEM professional who is shaping lives and building the future. I'm your host, Katie Culbert, and if you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe to our network. Joining me today, we have a very special woman in STEM, Dr. Cohn. Dr. Cohn serves as an adjunct faculty in the Department of Communication and Rhetoric at the University of Pittsburgh and is an adjunct professor at the University of Maryland Global Campus. She was the founding coordinator of the American Speech Language Hearing Association Special Interest Group on Telepractice. Dr. Cohn is also a member of the American Telemedicine Association, having served 2 terms on the ATA Board of Directors. Dr. Cohn has co-authored 8 books and is the founding editor of the peer-reviewed International Journal of Telerehabilitation. Dr. Cohn, welcome to our program.
Oh, thank you. It's really an honor to be with you and to talk to all the folks who will be listening in.
It's an honor to have you, Dr. Cohn.
Thanks.
So careers always have a starting point. Was there a particular moment that you can pinpoint that inspired you to pursue a career in STEM?
Well, it was interesting. I was in college and I had no idea what I wanted to do, except that I love working with children and I wanted to help people. And it was my mom that said, Ellen, I think you'd be good at this. And she set up shadowing for me with 2 speech language pathologists, one in a hospital and one in a school system. And I just fell in love with it. It was such a cool thing. I could work with children and adults. They were helping people. It was interesting. So yeah, that's how I started.
Oh, thank you for that amazing story. My parents are always such a great supportive system for me. So it's good to see that you had one too. So throughout your career, you have created an exceptional body of work and are truly a pioneer in telerehabilitation. Can you help our viewers to understand how you use information and communication technologies in rehabilitation?
Sure. Let me refer to my notes here. Okay. I guess the first thing I should do, though, is go back a little bit and tell you some of the ways, how telerehab was part of my career choice. So that happened kind of by accident. Okay. And here's my career trajectory. I was certified as a speech language pathologist. I went to Vanderbilt for my master's training, and I decided to go to University of Pittsburgh for my doctoral training. And I worked in a cleft palate center, which was the coolest thing. We got to observe everything, and I went and just saw the best people in the world working there. The children were wonderful. I really enjoyed them, and I became interested in interprofessional work, because on a cleft palate team, you don't work by yourself. You work with an audiologist, a geneticist, surgeons, plastic and reconstructive surgeons, and craniofacial surgeons, lots of different dentists like orthodontics, prosthodontics, and pedodontics. That's just a small part of the amount of people you work with. So I really loved interprofessional work, working with different professionals to help a patient and their family. And I don't want to leave out nursing, and there's just a lot of other professionals. So after I was doing that, I was getting paid on research grants. And one thing you guys should know is that research grants come and go. My mentor was kind of at the end of her career, again, internationally known in cleft palate, but her funds were going down, and a geneticist was brought in to run the team instead. So, my mentor, I didn't choose a mid-career mentor. My mentors were all kind of at the end of their career. And the department looked at me and said, well, why don't we bring you over to the actual department, the academic department, and you could do some teaching for us. They also offered me the opportunity to direct a speech and hearing clinic, which was really interesting and wonderful. So that's how I moved into that position. Well, a really interesting dean came along, Dr. Clifford Brubaker, and he decided to steal our department and bring it over to a new School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences. And we were real skeptical about that. We were in arts and sciences, which was a big deal and academically. But he brought me over, and one day he looked at me and he said, Ellen, how would you like to learn about remote learning? How about I send you to a conference or a seminar for 1 week, and you learn about remote learning? And I was not happy because I had a free trip to Aspen, and which would have been outside. Well, this distance ed stuff was in the dark for a whole week, but I learned about it, and he promoted me to become director of instructional development, then assistant dean, and then associate dean. Well, my job duties went way beyond that because he was a really cool dean, very innovative. And I was directing an interprofessional program. And one thing that they asked me to do was to edit a research grant, before it went out for to be judged. So I worked on that. And as a result, they wrote me in for a little bit of it. They called it dissemination. So this turned out to be an 8-year grant. And again, by accident, I was in charge of dissemination. So that meant I could form a special interest group and get like 2,000 people involved in my profession. And I could join American Telemedicine Association. And I was the first rehab person on their board. And so it was really a really incredible experience. Now, my training was with a Department of Communication and Rhetoric and speech pathology in the same department. So I was kind of cross-trained. So I never, abandoned those roots in communication. And that led to a lot of interesting things. Like I was called by the Bureau of Mine Safety to figure out why are miners dying in the caves and in the coal mines. They were like found with equipment, the respiratory equipment, down on the ground, and they hadn't put it on. Well, they figured I was a speech pathologist, so I could figure out if you couldn't communicate well. Mm-hmm. So what was so interesting, I went down into the coal mine, test coal mines. I put on all this big equipment, it was real heavy, and I respected the coal miners immensely. They were really a smart group of people. And I figured out it wasn't just the equipment. The equipment was hard to hear, but it was the culture of the coal mine. And that kind of brought into my communication training. So I learned that coal miners, they don't think much about risk, a lot of them, because if they did, they couldn't go down into those risky environments. In order to put the respirators on, they had to hear something like, or smell smoke, or be told there was smoke. But smoke had many different meanings. There was smoke that was like bad smoke, toxic smoke, and normal smoke in a coal mine. So the word smoke didn't have really good meaning. And also, I learned that when they get into trouble, they rely on each other, which has to do with like Maslow's need theory and communication. They want comfort, they want social support. And if they had their this device in their mouth, they couldn't hear each other or talk to each other very much. And then there were issues of leadership. Like generally, they wouldn't put the respirator on until someone in power said to them, it's time to put it on. See, the respirators were only good for an hour at a time. And when they were used up, the coal mining company had to pay $400 every time to refurbish it. So they were, they were waiting for someone to be leaders. Often the foreman wasn't the leader, and it was someone else who assumed leadership, and they were very reluctant to, jeopardize their jobs. So that I was able to communicate like a lot of different aspects in this consultantship because I had experience on both sides, the equipment side and the communication side.
So, Dr. Cohn, thinking about this career and all your experiences, is there one accomplishment that you believe most reflects all of your life's work?
Well, I guess helping people is, and that goes to, I love the clients I worked with speech problems. I still remember them, although I'm not doing active therapy at this point. And my colleagues, I write a lot of award letters for them and nominate them for things. I'm still doing that. And the students I work with mentoring, like you, for science fairs, because I was a science fair participant. And my own children. Okay, that, having children was wonderful, a family. And I would say to the folks that are listening, the career path you're going to have can be kind of long. It's a big highway, and you don't always have to just do one thing at a time. I kind of went more part-time when I was having my children, and then I was lucky to have a career that had some flexibility. So, my children are my greatest effort, and they weren't interested in my career. I can tell you, your kids are not going to be usually, exactly like you, and you have to understand that they're going to be different oftentimes, and that's wonderful. So they taught me lots also.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that great experience with us. I really like how you highlighted how you like helping people, because people think there's only certain ways, but you're saying there's so many other ways to help people, and I think that's very important. So,
you want
Dr.
me to talk about STEM, how I view STEM?
Yeah,
at
sure.
this point, because I was sort of at the top of it, but I didn't. So I'm not when you asked me to talk about STEM, I thought, well, I'm not a typical STEM person. I don't envision myself that way. I graduated high school in 1970, college 1974. STEM wasn't even, talked about at that point. When I was in college, they were just trying to get us to, not get married right away and keep going to grad school or have a career, go to work. So that was where the women's movement was really big. And I went to a women's college, with Douglas College, which was wonderful at that point. So STEM wasn't necessarily on my radar, but as I started to prepare for our talk today, I started to think that, and you articulated this really well, that you said too many students think STEM is only about science, math, and computers, and working in a lab or becoming a professor. And those are wonderful things. If you want to do that, anyone who's listening wants to do that, it's a really cool thing. And you could do it for all or part of your career. But I started to think about STEM really applies to so many work possibilities down the road. So I'll review a few of them. One would be public health. And there's some websites that I think you could attach at the end of this maybe, but public health, there's a natural partnership, because we know with the pandemic, we're looking at genetics and epidemiology and all those kinds of things. So public health is a really interesting career choice. Sometimes people who are in medicine do public health as well. So we're use it as an undergrad career. So let's move on to something more mundane, cooking. Okay, I got lots of cookbooks behind me. If you want to be a chef, wonderful. We need people who cook well. And the chemistry of food can be very technical. That's STEM, right? And proportions. And so a chef, you spend your time learning about chemistry. That's really great for your cooking career. And let's move to marketing and advertising. This week I attended a seminar for faculty about marketing. I didn't know much about it, but I was astonished at what goes into marketing and advertising. First of all, there's the behavioral sciences, and anything like speech or behavioral sciences, psychology, we want to adopt evidence-based practice. So we're really dependent upon research to come up with the principles that we're teaching students. Well, marketing and advertising is also reliant now on machine learning, and there's a large role for data science. So the question was asked, well, what do you need to do to prepare for a marketing career? If you're not just nothing wrong with finding out what kind of nail polish people want, what colors, but let's say you want to go into, audience segmentation and identifying people that you're going to give certain messages to. Well, this professor said you have to learn coding. You have to learn C++, Java+, Python is really important. Algorithms, mathematics, statistics. So who would think that, in the old days, I want to go into marketing. It was like having creative ideas, like in Mad Men, but it's really technical. So that's a STEM outcome. And then diversity and inclusion. That's a role that a lot of people are playing right now. And hopefully it is, it's really incorporated into all kinds of careers, knowing about different cultures and language and service. There's a lot of demographics and data that go into that. How about finances and economics? So one of the websites I have supplied is from Bloomberg Philanthropy. Now, some of you, like I'm from the Northeast, know that Mayor Bloomberg was mayor of New York City. But before that, he was this guy that came up with a machine to look at all kinds of different financial. Let's see, how do I say this? Because I'm not really in this area, but you could look at all of these financial indicators going on in the stock market in real time. And that's how he made billions of dollars. And Bloomberg started a foundation, and the foundation offers a lot, but if you go on the Bloomberg site, Bloomberg, and you look and you search for students, you're going to see a whole lot of services for students. Like they might partner with you for internships. They have a site to help you learn code. This is great. And one of the I was a mentor for junior science. I was thinking the Jewish Healthcare Foundation, the junior science symposium, and one of the projects had to do with predicting. It had an algorithm predicting behavior of the market. So, we all have to, we all hopefully get paid, right? It's good to know about finances. We all are going to have student debt potentially. Maybe we have we save for retirement, and we need to know how to distribute that those choices. Like, do we do conservative or methods, or do we use stock? How do we invest our money? So anyone who's going into STEM, it's never going to hurt you to know about finances. The Bloomberg site is so interesting. Now, another reason I'm telling you this is that the more skills you can acquire, the more marketable you will be. And that doesn't mean, some of the skills will help you get into an elite college elite university, but these skills are going to help you later on in the workplace. They're going to make you much more marketable. So let's talk about fashion. Okay, maybe some of you your real love is fashion. You should always do what you want to do. There is a lot of work that has to do with mathematics and measuring and data in fashion. And I sent you, there's a website there with a course in Parsons that talks about some of the data that the students need to know about, how to analyze it. Criminal justice, I think that's a really fascinating area. And there's this amazing link between criminal justice and mathematics. Like, there's a professor in Florida, her name's also Ellen Cohn, but she's interested in weather and trends and criminology and crime. So there's a lot of statistics and measurements that go into analyzing a crime scene. It's very interesting, and also genetics, right, are very interesting. Mathematics and language. Language, if you study language, there's a lot of mathematics in language, right? In fact, they say mathematics is a language. And so those are just some examples of STEM, where STEM has a big influence. And I think what you should do is think about what makes you really happy. What do you want to read about? What do you want to learn more about? If you're on TikTok, what are you paying attention to? And if you're good, if you know a lot and you're good at what you do, you're always going to do okay, even though, maybe your family says, well, I don't think you should go into this or that because you'll never make a living. If you're good at something, you'll make a living. Okay. So those are some of the areas of STEM that, I'm hoping you'll broaden your view of STEM after hearing this.
Yeah, thank you so much for that advice. I hope our viewers really take it in, because one of the main things of this channel is to really broaden everyone's perspective on STEM so they can think about all possible careers. And you just highlighted all the possible careers that could be within STEM, and there's even more on top of that. So thank you so much for all of that, Dr.
Sure,
Cohn.
it was fun to think about it.
So I know we've covered a lot of ground today, and it sounds like you have a really busy yet extremely interesting life. And I really appreciate all the educational and career and life advice that you've given to all the potential students who are listening to this. And so, for all of that, I'd like to thank my special guest, Dr. Ellen Cohn, for joining us on our show today. It was really great speaking with you. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
My pleasure.
And then thank you to our viewers, and please join us again for another exciting episode and another remarkable STEM professional. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. You've been listening to Profiles in STEM. Thank you. Katie Culbert signing off.